Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. This is the last word on rugby. Today, we are bringing you the final of the United Rugby Championship. All things pertaining to that game. We look forward to the Saturday of good rugby as the Bulls flying the flag of South Africa. They will take on Leinster and it is bound to be a cracker of a final. Our focus will shift to what will be happening at Croke Park on Saturday with me, Mike Greenaway, Ashfaq Mohammed. Guys, good morning. It's another final for the Bulls. Hopefully things can go a third time. Lucky for the men from Pretoria. Ashfaq, as someone who's followed the Bulls for the last season, it's going to be a tricky one playing away from home again. But hopefully this time around it takes that pressure off of them of having that home final and performing in front of their crowd. They'll be going there with absolutely no expectations, no people that will say they have the home ground advantage. They must win this. We saw what happened with the Glasgow Warriors coming here. We saw what happened in Cape Town where they had a healthy crowd in that first season in the DHL Stadium. Just importantly, what will be the crucial things that they need to do right on Saturday to finally get that win?
Yeah, thanks, Ethan. There'll be two schools of thought here. One would be that the Bulls are under pressure because it's a third URC final. You know, there'll be the C word that the Proteas are normally associated with.
Hey,
Cast at the Bulls, especially
that's
having
very
lost
early.
the Loftus final last season. That was a really tough one to take for everybody at the Bulls and their fans and everything because not only were they at home, but also they would have been expected to beat a team like Glasgow. With no disrespect to Glasgow, they just don't have the firepower that Leinster and maybe the French clubs in the Champions Cup have. So you would have thought the Bulls would pull it off there. But I actually feel it's a different thing. I actually feel that there's less pressure on the Bulls this time around because they firstly away from home in Dublin against that Leinster team, which we all know basically resembles the Irish Test side. So that's a really, really tough task. Even though the Bulls have won there before, of course, famously the 2022 semi-final against all odds, 27-26. Unbelievable display by Jake White's team that day. And they will, I think, need to produce a similar kind of effort this time around if they are going to win the title. But the fact that they've lost the first two finals and now going to Dublin, I think it's actually less pressure. Of course, they want to win it, and it will be great if it will be a case of third time lucky. But I think the expectations are much lower than certainly last season. So in that regard, I think Akka van der Merwe also mentioned it yesterday. The guys must go out and enjoy it, enjoy the experience. Croke Park will be a magnificent arena. I don't think it will be quite 82,000 odd capacity, but certainly I think at least probably 50,000. Leinster announced yesterday they're opening up some of the top tiers as well now due to the demand for more tickets. So that's a great development. 40,000 tickets already sold. So it's going to be a great atmosphere. And if the Bulls can just you ask what they need to do to win. I think firstly they need to cut out those yellow cards. You can't
Yeah.
play like last week against the Sharks. They'll be taken apart if they must be down to 13 men. The Leinster's just so efficient. They've got their systems. They remind me almost like of a Man City in their prime in football. People call Man City a system team. I think Leinster, with no disrespect, I mean in a positive way, they're a system team. If you one man down, they will exploit it because the systems are just so strong
Yeah.
and they back themselves. And I think that will be crucial for the Bulls. But then also to fight fire with fire. I don't think the Bulls must go into the shell and try and be conservative and absorb the pressure because Leinster's going to try and open you up from the very first whistle. So I think the Bulls also need to take them on, and because it's a final, it's a one-off game. There's no point you're gonna try and be
Yeah.
play percentage rugby and wait for things to happen or hope for mistakes or a referee's call. Andrea Piatti has had a few run-ins with the Bulls already over the years, so I doubt they're gonna get any favors from the referee as well. So they've got to make it happen themselves.
Mike, I'm gonna throw it your way. After seeing the Bulls playing with those well, two yellow cards were at the same exact time almost, and then the third one had them playing for like 40 seconds with 12 men before halftime. After seeing them come through that defensive effort, do you believe they have that what can I call it now? That strength, that power, that resilience. After seeing that last weekend, you think they can put up that defensive effort against Leinster again?
Yeah, yeah. Look, I mean, it was very evident that that defense, sort of in that 5 to 10 minute period before halftime, effectively won them the game. And we've seen that defense a lot, especially when they were overseas. Eh? And we talk about it being it's the first, by the way, the first URC final that's away from South Africa. But the
Exactly.
Bulls have played some of their best rugby when they're on tour. I mean, they got some fantastic results fairly recently when in that month they were away in Europe, and defense there was unbelievable. Yeah, and what we're seeing from the Bulls, in my opinion, I mean, they've been together now under Jake for about 4 years or so. And they're just building and they're getting better. I think they're better prepared. They're a better Bulls team than the one that lost to the Stormers and lost to Glasgow. Um, and just yeah, we talk about those cards that the Bulls had, and Ashrak, you're quite right. They just cannot afford to have cards against Leinster because the Sharks just weren't good enough on attack to put the Bulls away when they were 14 men, then 13, then 12, and they were down for a long period without their full 15 complement. And the Sharks were just so one-dimensional with their attacking. I mean, they were just plodding
Yeah.
away there with no variation. And that doesn't happen with Leinster. You're quite right, Ashpak. They will exploit the space. Um, they've also got, according to Irish reports, Gary Ringrose coming back, who's a very good centre. I mean, it's almost like they don't really need to improve much after that Glasgow performance. They were ruthless. They were really good.
They were.
And they made the Warriors look very ordinary, and it is a good Warriors team. We've had some good results this year, but they were made to look quite amateurish at times. And in that game as well, that Warriors game, which was quite interesting to see. Leinster aren't just good at exploiting space, with the ball in hand. The way they peppered those kicks up on the Glasgow back three was brilliant. I mean, we're going to talk about their scrum half, who I think makes it all tick for them, Jamison Park. But yeah, no, I think the Bulls know what they've got to do, and they've got to keep all 15 players on the field. Also, put Leinster under pressure with ball in hand, the big ball carriers, the forwards there. There are the effective ball carriers that can make inroads there. So it's not just about containing Leinster.
Yeah, I was just going to add in that Leinster Glasgow game. I mean, how they varied their game. They were under pressure in that first 10, say 10 to 15 minutes. Glasgow attacked, and it looked like it was going to be this proper duel. It's going to be a proper contest between two very good sides. But then, as soon as they started spotting the gaps, they hit them,
Mm.
and they absolutely destroyed Glasgow's defense. But then also you spoke about Gibson Park's kicks from the back, James Lowe's kicks from the back. I mean, if James Lowe kicked, you'd see Tommy O'Brien give the chase, and he would almost if it's an up and under the box kicks like we call it, he was absolutely sublime in the air. I mean, they they hardly kicked the ball where there was no one really chasing and putting pressure on Glasgow. And at this stage, Glasgow became so desperate that they tried to run everything from their backfield, and that's where they started making the errors, and Leinster pounced on them. So the Bulls will have to be very, very wary about just how Leinster kicks to the backfield. The wingers will have to be back with Willie. It's a pity they won't have Cameron Hanekom, but we know there's some proper replacements there. So fielding that backfield is going to be very, very important for the Bulls. Us just on that missing Cameron. It's I can say it's been a while where the Bulls had an eighth man. I'm thinking back to Pierre Spies days. Just like where they had a proper athlete who does his work with the carrying, with the tackling, with the poaching at the breakdown. And he's surely going to be missed, Cameron.
Yeah, no, he will definitely, Leighton. He's just such a dynamic runner, and he gets involved, and he runs good lines, and he's not shy to also take on the wider channels as well because of his pace. So he can mix it up close around the breakdowns, and then also outstrip the defense in the wider channels. So that's
Yeah,
definitely an element that the Bulls will miss, and they need to counter that. And I just hope that Jake does. I mean, Jake's coach, as he likes to remind us, for over 40 years.
yeah,
So he's sort of seen it, done it all. And I just hope that the Bulls at least have one or two really different trick plays that can outsmart Leinster. There's no point. You're just gonna stick. Yes, of course, 90% of the time you're gonna stick to what's worked for you
to
throughout
that
the season.
blueprint. Yeah,
But I think for the final against a team like Leinster, who are just so efficient and so dynamic across the field. You've got to come up with something different, whether it's a 1999 Springbok Jannie de Beer drop goal kind of thing, where you just put over a few early drop goals just to
yeah,
rock them a bit and come up with something different, put points on the board, and suddenly, that might just force him to play a little bit differently to how they hope to play. Or whether just go for box kicks for the first 10 minutes non-stop, and just get Kane Moody up in the
correct.
air. He's
Yeah,
brilliant in the air, just to
Sebastian
take
as
on
well. Yeah,
Jimmy O'Brien and James Lowe and all those kind of guys. Or whether it's even, because the bull scrum is so strong, why not have an early knock on and get Wolkelo right into the thick of things from the start? Get an early scrum, see what they're about. Because, as Andy Porter might be a hero amongst Irish rugby fans, but that guy, he riles me up sometimes, with his tricks in the scrums, and I really hope Wolko can put it to him, and so get Wolkelo involved. I mean, he's arguably been the Bulls' best player this season, so why not, use him right from the start?
yeah. Mike, if you can add to that, which I would want to say three. There'd probably be three Bulls players who you would like to see make that step up. We've spoken about them missing
Yeah.
Cameron Hanekom, but who will those
Yeah.
three guys be for you?
Yeah, I was just saying earlier that the Bulls need to make inroads into that defense. I'd like to see Corbus Visa and Marcel, the likes of them, really carrying Volko can as well, Jan Hendrik Wessels, actually try and get over the advantage line and then bring the likes of David Creel into the game, and I think, we talk about them doing something different. First of all, I think they've got to back themselves to have a go at times. I think that was Willie
Yeah,
LaRue who said, you can't now, because it's a final, if you see a possibility, think, oh no, the pressure, I might make a mistake. They've got to go for it. That's the only way they're going to beat Leinster, is to actually play their natural game. And when they see a half chance, take it, not shrink into that, oh, it's a final, I don't want to cost my team. If you want to beat Leinster, you've got to actually have a go at them. You've got to literally beat them. You can't just wait for things to happen, because then they will put you away. So yeah, we need Johan Goosen. He can make things happen. We know he's dynamic. We need Willie, and yeah, I'd like to see David Creel get the ball more often. Um, But yeah, take the game to Leinster. Don't wait for things to happen. I think that is what Jake would also be telling him.
Yeah, I would like to see Emrose Papier play almost the exact
Yeah.
same way or step up
Mm,
what he's done to the Sharks. I mean, he's sniping and he spots gaps off lineouts or from the scrum. He just knew which way to go this
mm,
past Saturday and he caught the Sharks' defense off guard quite a few times and then that running off his shoulder, whether it's Willie or whether it's Harold Forster or David Creel. I mean,
mm.
that's going to be crucial as well because that's where, if Emmy snipes, that's where the mismatches happens and the gap starts opening up and he can put someone through. Kobus Wiese for argument's sake as well in the build up to that one try of theirs, which was a brilliant try. So more of those things. I'd like to see more of that against Leinster.
Yeah.
They should not, like you guys have said, go back into their shell and play that bullish rugby. But they will also need that if things are not happening. The Bulls are very good with that pick and go, getting that forward ball until someone at the back can just spark something.
Yeah, and maybe bring Sebastian de Klerk in off a blindside wing,
Yeah,
running off the forwards, making inroads, get those effective attackers like him involved, and have a go. I mean, it's a one off. You've got a great chance to make history.
go for it.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
repeating myself, but don't shrink into a conservative bubble. Play Bulls rugby.
If I may just add there, Mike, I'm gonna find the lineouts quite interesting. I wonder if, considering the Sharks managed to steal a few Bulls lineouts last week, I remember Vince Chuka got up there at the front of the lineout as well, and that was quite concerning for me, considering the Bulls having a guy like Ruan Nokia there. Although Ruan is playing blindside flank at the moment, and I've sort of not really been in full agreement with Jake on that. I feel he's
Mm,
a number five lock. He's a Springbok there. You know why? Why is he playing seven flank? I don't think he's got the pace of a Peter
mm,
Steph to do even to operate there. I understand it's another line-out option at the back, and certainly with Cameron Hanekom out, they're gonna lose a line-out
mm,
option right at the back there. So Ruan could play a role there. But just in terms of calling, I would imagine Ruan is still calling, even though Jay van Heerden is the junior Springbok at number five. But Corvus Riso also for me is more actually a blindside flank than a number four lock, even though he does the hard yards, of course, and he's been brilliant this season. But still, he's not a 2 meter tall sort of, Bakkies Botha or whatever kind of, or even it's a bit kind of number four lock. So perhaps the Bulls should even keep the ball infield instead of kicking it out the whole time because the Leinster also have quite a few clever plays off the lineouts, off the maul, or they don't really maul as much as the Bulls perhaps, but they play to the front of the lineout or little winger, James Lowe, someone coming around the corner or something like that. So maybe
yeah.
just keep the ball in field and keep them going.
Yeah. Just another thing I just remember now, sorry, Gleaton, just to come in here about that Warriors game was the defense of Sam Prendergast for Leinster was exposed
Yeah,
a few times.
yeah,
And
horribly this season.
he was the hot property there for quite a long time and was tipped to go on the British and Irish Lions tour. But then opposition teams started finding him out. And then that was what cost him a place on that Lions tour. I'm pretty sure poor Jake has picked that up as well, no doubt,
Yeah.
of course. But that is an area that they can exploit.
Mm.
There's definitely a defensive deficiency there at 10. And I mean, if you can get Marcel and Corbus, those guys running at him, making a little bit of inroads over there and then offloading to support runners, that is definitely an area they can look to exploit.
Yeah, that's going to be key for Harold as well to target that channel maybe Gibson Park and Prendergast or just outside the Leinster 10. Sione Tuipulotu got that spot on with his carryism
Exactly.
last weekend. It was very good to see how they actually exploited, and that is where Glasgow actually got the upper hand in those opening stages where they were just focused on running onto his bad shoulder. I don't know if it's left or right, but maybe both are bad. So the Bulls will maybe definitely look to exploit that this weekend. Speaking about that Leinster defense, I mean Jacques Nienaber is there, so it's not just a case of deciphering the defense. Like, although they have certain weak links, they do have a defensive system that knows how to shut out attacking teams.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why I feel Leighton, considering we all know Jacques' sort of defensive mindset there, a real rush defense and in your face kind of thing. Um, Perhaps a little choppy or two over the top there from Imi, Papier, or
Mm.
Goosen, a little grabber
Hooghuizen,
along
yeah.
the ground from a scrum, just to make them think a bit differently. That
Mm.
for me is the main
Yes.
thing for the Bulls. They need to test Leinster. Leinster knows exactly what the Bulls are about. I mean, Jacques Nienaber
Yeah.
will give him the inside there. Edgar Snyman knows the Bulls really well.
Yeah.
So give him something that they won't expect. And in that way, you can sort of make them really catch him off guard and make the Leinster defense think so that they know it's not just a case of putting the back three back because Embro is going to box kick every time or Corson is going
Mm.
to go for up and under.
Yeah.
Then they need to bring up their fullback or their wingers to cover that little grabber or chip over the back line. And maybe use, as Mike said earlier, a blindside wing or Seb de Klerk or kind of Moody coming off the side of the scrum, just off the back of the scrum and attacking Brendergast in that way. So yeah, there are various ways and means. It's about manipulating the defense. So you've got to have quite a few ways to do that. It can't be one dimensional, one of runners. Then Leinster's just going to eat them up alive, and then it's a really easy evening for them.
Exactly.
Like you have last thing to add about the Bulls Leinster game, maybe if you want to give us a prediction there. I know you're the last guy who wants to make predictions, but I'm gonna put both of you on the spot to give us
Yeah.
a prediction there.
Yeah. Okay. This game, we haven't spoken too much about Leinster, but they're under a lot of pressure. There was only 16,000 people turned up at the Viva Stadium to watch the semi-final. I mean, normally those guys pack out
Yeah,
the Viva
they do.
Stadium. So their fans have made it quite clear over quite a long period that they're quite disenchanted with their side. I mean, they're now getting the chokers tag, and um, I think what that means is, they've been so criticized, Leinster. They're under so much pressure now to eventually clinch a final that any form of complacency that I think they have had before in finals, because they've just sort of marched to finals, and
Yeah,
even in the Champions Cup, they've
yeah,
looked the
yeah.
team to beat, and then they've kind of just haven't pitched on the day. So I think they are going to pitch on the day. I mean, after this long history now of losing finals, cheapers, they haven't won a final at home since 2018. And considering that they played in a lot of finals, that is quite a long time. So I'm a little bit worried about this. I think Leinster are going to be 100% there in the moment on the day. They are going to be hard to beat. And my prediction is, and Ashfaq, I hope you're going to counter me, is that Leinster will get over the line here. I just think that, and like you say, Ashfaq, they got what they're going to probably have 50,000 there. I just think that they they correctly focused. They'll win by 5 to 7 points.
Yes, if you can step in there, I'd like to put you on the spot as well.
Sorry to say, Mike, this is a Bulls' year. The
I
stars are
hope you're
aligned,
right.
guys. The stars are aligned. It's going to be third time lucky. They've done their homework. They beat Munster and Glasgow away this season. They so much more streetwise than they were
Mm.
in previous seasons.
Yeah.
As you said, Mike, you feel they're a better side than in the 22 and 24 finals. I definitely agree. Yes, they're missing Cameron Hanekom. They would have dearly have loved to have had Curtly Arendse in the team as well.
Mm.
He could have really made a huge difference to them. But I just think that the Bulls are the sum of their parts this season in particular. They've dealt with
You're
a
right.
number of injuries. Ruan Okia has been out for a long time. Jan Goosen was out for a long time. Elrich Lou isn't there. Kurtley isn't there. Now Cameron Hanekom isn't there. And yet they're in the final. They ended second on the log. Keegan Johannes stepped up beautifully at fly-off when required. He can still also play a role
Yeah.
at the bench. Corner Hendricks' passing will also inspire them. They've retired the number 14 jersey for the rest of the season. Keenan Moody wearing 24. They've got his pick on their numbers at the back of the
Numbers. Yeah.
jerseys. That's another motivating factor for them. And I think it's just time. This squad has matured now, 4 years under Jake. I don't think it's going to get better than this. Of course, they can still get reinforcements for next season and really mount a Champions Cup campaign. But I think for the URC, they've got it sorted. They know what's needed. They've beaten Leinster in Dublin before. They beat him in the semi-final last year at Loftus. I think they would have done their homework properly on Leinster again and
Yeah.
again and again. So they know what's coming. And like I said, I just hope that they don't go into the shell. They have a few trick plays just to catch the Leinster defense unawares and
Yeah.
give it a full go and not hope for referees' decisions to go their way, not concede cards that will just totally end their challenge. They
Mm.
will need to be at their best. There's no doubt about that. To beat this Leinster team in Dublin, Croke Park, all of that, it's going to be a great occasion. So let's hope that if they can do all of that, but I think they will. The Bulls to win
Yeah.
by 3.
Yeah, I also have my money on the Bulls. It must be the year. They can't go into a final for the third time and not step away with some silverware. Obviously, the whole of South Africa, bar a few Sharks, Stormers, Lions supporters, will be behind the Bulls. I think they will have the majority of South Africa's support, and then hopefully they can actually do it this time around. I will definitely put my money on them to win by. I think they will be between 7 and 12 points. Mark my words, they will take this one, guys. Before we end off, just quickly, the Boks are back in camp. I spoke with Mike last week about the announcement of Rassi's squad. Quickly, we lightly tapped on it, and I would also like to lightly tap on it today again. He announced his squad quite early, and then we saw the injury to Cameron Hanekom. Um, I don't want to blame it on that, but Ashim, you weren't here, but were you surprised that he selected his squad so early before the final, or do you feel it was necessary? And Mike, if you can come in after that, just this past week, what the Springbok squad has been up to in their new
Yeah.
pick up pay gear and all of that.
Yeah, I think it was necessary, Leighton, because the other teams are now out of the competition, and the Sharks contingent. I think we all knew, most of them would make it anyway. It's not much of a surprise here. What I was surprised about though was a few guys who were left out, and subsequently now Evan Rose has been recalled after Cameron Hanekom's injury. I thought Evan should have been there anyway. Um, and also a few sort of French players and Tokozo Makaza, UCT wing retained
Yeah.
for the actual squad. Does that mean now he's going to make his debut, perhaps against the Barbarians or even against Italy? But I
Mm.
think also overall, I think Rassi wants to get the sort of lay of the land of where his many senior guys are. I wrote in my column this week that I feel that there's a danger that they could run out of steam and not make it to
Yeah.
2027. Many of those sort of older 30 plus guys. And they need to prove themselves. It's still 3 international seasons away from the 2027 World Cup. So there's no way that Rassi can guarantee almost anybody, perhaps
Any
bar
one of
Sasha
them. Yeah.
Freiburg and Komigulu. But yeah, it's still a long way away, and there's a lot of rugby to be played. Yes, we know the Sharks box are always better when they're in a green jersey. But still, there's a lot of worrying signs that I think Russia needs to find answers to, and it may not
Mm.
necessarily
Yeah,
be
yeah,
just against Italy, but actually against the All Blacks in New Zealand.
yeah.
Yeah, I'd like to make a comment, not so much about the players in the squad, but about the coaching staff. Um, it was like almost a throwaway comment from Rassie after that first camp in Cape Town. Right at the end of a press conference, he said, he was looking forward to the Joburg camp when the guys could actually get onto the field because everything had been on screen. And he said the most exciting thing for him, this is Rassie speaking, was to see uh, Tony Brown and Jerry Flannery in their second year with the Springboks, and how having sort of just come in and got a feel of what's going on, how they are going to evolve the squad in this season coming up now. And I think that is very exciting to see what Tony Brown how the attack is going to evolve now that he's found his feet with the Springboks, and um, he knows the players, and they are definitely going to try and evolve and grow how they play this season. So I think that's really exciting now to see what what the coaching staff now deliver, that they're a little bit further along with the Springboks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to what transpires over the next week or so because they will be heading down to Cape Town real soon for that first match against the Barbarians before the mid-year tests start. Guys, thanks for joining again. You've been tuned into another episode of The Last Word on Rugby. It is the battle of the perennial European bridesmaids, if I can call it that. The Bulls in the URC, Leinster, who's been runners-up in the Champions Cup. They will be going for glory and for a first title in the United Rugby Championship. It's actually quite funny how it's taken so long for them to reach the top. We will have a new champion after Saturday, so we will bring all of the final for you on next week's episode. It's been another good chat, guys. If you haven't yet, click that like, subscribe button, and we will bring you some more news next week. Mike, Ash, thanks for joining me again. Cheers.